So episode 4 of The Last of Us was probably the most infuriating watch so far for me, because I was sitting watching this episode and I was thinking, how can it be so good compared to last week?
That's stupid.
And why has no one pointed out that last week's travesty, the absolute and utter trash fire of episode 3, was a total deviation in the wrong direction? Because if we look at this episode, it deviates from source material, but it actually stays true to the characters and the narrative of Joel and Ellie's relationship. Some people might say that this was a slow burner, that nothing happened, but for me this is exactly what I wanted. This is where I thought we were going in episode 2, and then we got episode 3. Now, I have heard that as we progress into this series, especially episode 7, things are going to take a really bad turn for the character of Joel. I don't know how true these rumors are, but we can see definitely that the showrunners have the guts, just like they had the guts last week, to actually spit in the face of the consumer. The fans who bought this game, the fans who loved the story of Joel and Ellie, got absolutely decimated last week with some random story that no one really wants to see. And don't be fooling yourself, because you know that you're lying. You've been caught lying in the last week, especially given the fact that IMDb said that they had to counteract the review bombing of episode 3 by review bombing it themselves with over 50,000 votes that gave it a 10 out of 10. You're talking about being completely and utterly unorganic.
See, now that's some bullshit.
So in this episode, we had Joel and Ellie together on the road, making their way towards, this time it was Kansas, in the game it was Pittsburgh. That's fine. Again, deviations are fine if they're done the right way. If they're done for virtue and identity politics, absolutely not. And if they're done to placate a tiny minority, then I have no interest. A lot of the stuff that we saw in this episode was beautiful between Joel and between Ellie. I think that the jokes were absolutely great. I think that it showed that lighter side of Joel, especially when he broke face and started laughing. I love that. I love what they're doing in terms of the aesthetic. Like, these cities that they're held up in, they really feel like they're abandoned. The CGI is incredible. The cinematic scope of this episode looked so great. Even the character of Kathleen, who I had reservations about, turned out to be a well-written, nuanced character that I actually believe could be the leader of this rebel group, because of the way it was written and what the actor actually brought to it in terms of especially the dialogue with her in the interrogation scene with the doctor. It felt real. It felt lived in and it felt real, and I kind of looked at it and was like, yeah, I buy her as the leader, absolutely. She's not a Mary Sued out of it character. So I'm fine with that. There were some really touching scenes between Joel and Ellie. The dialogue between the two of them when he taught her how to hold the gun. This is what it's all about, right? This is what the show should be about. It shouldn't be about a bizarre love story that happens for 20 years that totally is a filler episode, as well as we know that it's a virtuous episode from the showrunners. It's more than frustrating, it's actually infuriating to think that if the showrunners just held tight and made this show the way it should be made, you would have an absolute another masterpiece on your hand. But as it stands, what we have is a load of crying emojis and people telling lies to themselves, but not only that, pushing out the lies onto others, that episode 3 was this Oscar-winning, award-worthy, beautiful piece of art. Fine. It might have been that, but it shouldn't have been in this show. As I said last week, it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I don't know where this show is going to go. If the rumors are to be believed, then this show is going to turn into a massive trash fire as we get to the later episodes. I don't know. If it follows suit and does what Cuckman did with The Last of Us Part 2, then we know that it's going to be a stinking pile of absolute and utter garbage. And as we saw with episode 3, these showrunners are despotic lunatics. The gloves are off. They've got no fear of taking what the fans made a massive successful game. And as fans of the game, we must keep it at the forefront of our mind that this show is not made for us. This show is made for virtue. This show is made for left-wing nutjobs. And if they can placate the fans just enough and still slip in the message, that's 100% what they're going to do. So overall, as this episode goes, it was absolutely brilliant for me. It was probably my favorite so far. Character development, brilliant. Deviation from the story done in the right way, absolutely fantastic. No problem with that. Left with this burning feeling of why the fuck were we forced to watch episode 3? Why couldn't we have continued this story with Joel and Ellie? Why the fuck did you do that? And of course it's a rhetorical question, because we know that it's all about indoctrination with these Hollywood elites, but we will see where this show goes. All we can do is hope and pray that going forward we get more and more episodes just like episode 4. Do me a favor, let me know your thoughts down below. Hit subscribe, share, and I really appreciate you. Cheers.